I'm so excited to be here with you all talking about this subject. I've never done this subject before in a workshop, but I've done some similar things. But I'm so grateful to Lainey for allowing me to be here and do this because it's one of my favorite subjects. And I never realized the importance of it until I started traveling, and we were kind of looking for a home, I guess you could say, because the one we came from no longer felt like it fit. And we wanted to see what else was out there and what else was possible. And so it's just all about home and what that means and how to create that in a way that is meaningful to you. So first of all, it brings up a lot of emotions, the subject of home for people. And so I think it's really important, first of all, that if any emotions come up in the workshop today for you, as they have been in other workshops today as well, don't resist the emotion, but invite it in and use the feeling as a portal to some of these hidden obstacles that you want to gain more clarity on to move through them. And then it's kind of like going on a treasure hunt, and it's an opportunity for us to take full responsibility of our emotions and just kind of be able to work through them. Acceptance, love, ease, grace, and choose to bring the joy into your experience and just engage and have confidence in your ability to figure things out and just bring your own enthusiasm, presence, and vibrancy and self-expression into our time today. So, and like Lainey was saying, the magic of the workshop is that we're not alone in our challenges, right? And that others can see that, we all have similar issues, and creating the space to share safely in a group. Okay. So our job at this workshop is simply to explore our own process and trust it. Trust that exploration. And journal down anything that comes to mind that you want to remember, or insights you have for yourself, and mark them in your notes so you can come back to them and work with them, so you don't just, like somebody brought up a fear, that we don't just learn the stuff at the workshop and at the conference and then forget it all when we go home and don't use it. So that's the important part. So what we'll start out with is, I'm just going to give an overview here. So we'll start out with a quotes activity about home, and you all received the smaller packet has quotes on home. So we'll start out with that, and then we'll become more clear about what home means to each of us. And then we'll do some sharing activities about creating home in ourselves under the categories of mindfulness, emotional awareness, self-compassion, and courage. And then we'll share about creating home in our relationships through compassionate communication, including a full presence listening activity. And I really love that activity because that's something I need to work on more. And then we'll share about creating home in our I'm so sorry. In our daily living situation, because that's what we do every day, and we need to feel at home in those things. And then third, actually I guess this would be under number 4 as well, our connection to community and culture, which we've talked a lot about already, but there's always more we can talk about. And then sharing about creating home through conscious travel, like remembering our why we're traveling, being attentive to our pace and style, and generating energy and understanding culture shock. So let's start out with the quotes activity. Home is such a fascinating word. And this quotes activity actually, if you'll just look at the top there, I've written a little bit about what it is. You may agree with some of the quotes. You might not agree with some of them. You might agree with all of them. The point is, it's just diverse voices regarding people's thoughts on home. And so it's supposed to help prime our thoughts on home, our experiences, and just get us thinking about that topic and just prime us for going deeper in the workshop today. Please take note or mark any of them that stand out to you in some way. And then pick one, if you're interested in sharing your thoughts about it, pick one that you're interested in sharing your thoughts about with the group. And I'll just give us maybe 3 minutes to read over those, and then we'll share. So I'll go ahead and share one of mine first. Number 5. One never reaches home, but wherever friendly paths intersect, the whole world looks like home for a time. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy conferences like this so much, is because that's what it feels like. It feels like we're at home with each other. And I love that feeling, and I love that energy, because it does feel like home. Does anybody have one they would like to share their thoughts about?
I do.
Okay, Lee.
I don't have the paper in front of me, but number 21 was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and you talked about this one with the fear. Yeah. That's actually what I noticed is really helpful for me as well. Just becoming really present helps me feel more at home. Yeah, for sure.
I agree. Yeah, that's my Buddhist teacher.
Oh,
I'm
great.
wearing his clear.
And who is your teacher? I
I
love, yeah, that's right.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Because, no matter how chaotic it may seem on the outside, if you really just go back to your breath and you're present, my teacher will call it going back to yourself.
Yeah.
And it being going back home to yourself, your refuge, and then I don't like speaking.
Can you say that one more time? Sorry.
Sorry about that, everyone.
No, it's all right. Can you say it just one more time now that you have the mic so it'll be caught up?
I don't remember what I said, though. Yeah, so,
You have to use the mic now that you have it.
we call our teacher Thai, that means teacher in Vietnamese, and he always teaches us that our true home is within ourselves, and it's going back to, that's our refuge, and it can be anywhere we are, and even if there's all sorts of chaos around you, that you simply just have to sit and just go back to your breath, and there you are, you're home.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Somebody was raising their hand. Yes.
Number 7, I love this, does every human being to be at home wherever I find myself.
And what do you think about that quote stood out to you?
It's about being accepting of where you are and wherever you are, whoever you are, or how you are, that home will be there. So feeling of peacefulness and acceptance at that moment.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you. The first one, home isn't a place, it's a feeling. 3 years ago I went through a big trauma, and when I was doing conscious work to find out why I created it in first place, when I started to step out of the position of the victim, that things are happening to me, and I changed my mind that I create things with my beliefs and thoughts, and I experienced amazing moment of oneness, and it was such a deep feeling of being home, where I started to understand that it's just my illusion of separation, that my all fears and all my, we were talking about fears a lot today, so all the fears are coming from that feeling that I'm separated from you or everything around me. And that oneness moment just created feeling of home, and I carry it since then. I can step into that moment in my meditations, just closing my eyes any minute. And since then I understand that there's no beginning, no end, no death, no birth. There's just oneness. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that one, the first one really just made it happen. It reminded me that we are the spiritual being having human experience.
That's beautiful, thank you. Yeah, those types of experiences can happen, right? And it's so powerful. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
Really, just to build on what everyone else has said, number 10, where it says, home is the place where life is born, not the place of your birth, but the place where you seek rebirth. And for me, that happened originally just leaving the home where I was raised that didn't feel like the right match for me. But now it's grown to, like what Grace said, and as you said as well, where rebirth is happening in every instant. And so as long as you're present and being reborn in every instant and letting it flow through you, home is every step. Home is every moment.
I really like that because it's kind of like living in that state of non-resistance and always moving in the flow of change and what's coming through. And yeah, I love that. Anybody else? Okay, I'll do Paul first and then I'll go down here.
Hi, I found a couple of things ironic. One is like our travel blog is Home Along the Way, and our subtitle is Making Home Where We Find Ourselves. And so home is a very big topic for us. And then I had never read this quote by Maya Angelou before, number 7. As long as does I long, as does every being, to be at home wherever I find myself. That's going to go on our blog now. The funny part is the two that struck us the most, and both Becky and I, ironically, went on board with both of these, and they both happen to be the Maya Angelou quotes. Number 26, and I'll skip the first part, but I believe we feel safest when we go inside ourselves and find home, a place where we belong, and maybe the only place where we really do. For ourselves, the whole thing about home is that we don't feel like we belong, on this earth, or anywhere country or city-wise. And so it's just that recognition that, internal is where we belong. And it kind of ties in with Grace, right? What Grace was saying. So, it's, I belong where I am, because that's where I am.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Some hands were raised on here.
Okay. Number 20. Home is where you take it. Home is what you take with you, not what you leave behind. And that really resonated with us because about 2 months ago we got rid of our home, brick and mortar, and moved into our RV full time. We got rid of 90% of our stuff, and it feels more like home in the 300 square feet of the RV more so than it did in the 2,000 square foot of the house. So no matter where we go, it still feels like home. So it's kind of a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
You want to say anything?
Yeah. I love that because, it's a smaller space in a way that you feel more, like maybe less scattered, because it's a smaller, like when we just did carry on luggage after we sold our house. That's what it felt like. It felt like we just had more emotional space, I guess. Yeah.
So somebody already said that first one, home isn't a place, it's a feeling. I really like that one because I've always said to my husband and I, who've been together for 20 years, that when I met him, I felt like I was home finally, and he never got what that meant, but it was that feeling of like, I'm home, this is it. I feel grounded and surrounded by love, and where I needed to be. Like home is where you need to be, wherever that is for anyone. But that's just, for 20 years been the thing that I've said to him. Well, you were always like coming home. You're just home. This is where I belong.
Yeah, home has a lot to do with our relationships.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, anybody else?
Okay, so you already mentioned number 5, which is what never reaches home, but wherever friendly paths intersect, the whole world looks like home for a time. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the Enneagram, but it's an ancient personality typing system. And so I'm a 4, and as is typical of most 4s, I feel discontent all the time. And that's partly what drives my desire to travel, but also as we travel, there's lots of moments where I think, where I all of a sudden felt like I was at home. Like, I thought, maybe Japan is home, or maybe India is home, or maybe, somewhere else. And I realized that a lot of those are because of the interactions that we've had with the people, and just the times of, connection that we felt. And so that really resonates with me. It's just the sense of belonging at home has more for me to do with people than a particular location.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting the energy that people bring and the collective energy that people bring as part of culture too, and what that helps me to see in myself, and that's all part of home for me is seeing more of myself. Yeah.
So I really like number 3, where it just says every day is a journey and a journey itself is home. And I guess to carry on what he was saying is that it might be maybe because the past 9 months we've been in a school bus, but it has been parked at my mother-in-law's house in her driveway. And it has been partially converted, so for 9 months we've been in 200 square feet trying to build and raise 3 kids and a dog and a rat. And we had a guinea pig, but the dog went so crazy it ate the guinea pig.
No, she was trying to play with the guinea pig.
She was very angry she was there. But here I felt like I'm so at home. And I'm dreading going back. I don't want to get on the airplane. I just want to catch an Uber somewhere and then just stay.
They're not in here. Just 1 second. Go ahead.
So Bella's looking for her parents.
Oh, Bridget.
Bridget.
Bridget, you in here? Jacob.
She didn't see them in here, so I'm not sure if anyone where they went.
They were here the last session, so maybe they went to get a coffee or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm
She's welcome to sit in the back if she wants to wait. Thank you.
What's her last name? Message her.
Weaver.
What's Bridget's
Weaver.
Uh-oh. Okay, does anybody else want to share?
So this is a really good topic for me. I really like number 9. Home was not the place where you were born, but the place you created yourself, where you did not need to explain where you finally became what you were. So I left my hometown in Montana about 20 years ago, and ever since I left, I've been trying to get back home, or what I thought was home. I finally got that chance about a year ago, and I went back for 6 months. So I thought it was home. At first it felt really good. I felt like here was where I belonged. But a couple months into it, I started to get restless. And, I wanted to get back on the road. So it's just kind of a realization that, it's not where I was born. That's not home. But I feel like this community, this community of travelers that's my home, because this is where I'm accepted. And this is where people understand the drive to just go and be on the road.
that makes a huge difference. Yeah.
I like 14. It says, you will fall in love with train rides, and sooner or later you will realize that nowhere seems like home anymore. I guess that one resonated with me because as we migrated from Mexico to Canada, I really didn't feel Canadian, and then I thought, well, let's go back to Mexico, and then at some point I did a roots trip, and I thought, oh, okay, well, not Mexican anymore. So I'm used to feeling like the odd one out. And I remember having a conversation with my college geography professor, and I told him that, and he said, no, you have to think deeply. There's always a rock somewhere in the world that people feel attached to. And I really probed at that point. No, there's no rock. There's no rock anywhere, and I'm my rock. There is no place. It's not about place. I think home is where you find those connections with individuals beyond culture, beyond country, beyond... there are no flags for me. There are no borders for me. I've never felt that was actually legitimate, because in every country and in every place, you're going to find differences that are individual-based. And so for me, home is really finding those connections with specific individuals whom I can have deep conversations with. And it's really no longer attached and never has been, as far as I can remember, to a specific rock. So that's why I like that one.
Nice. Yeah, I really liked that one too. And for me, it was like sad at the same time, because I want that feeling of home. I want to feel like I belong, but yeah, not feeling that way. And so the next quote is kind of interesting. I knew then that I wanted to go home, but I had no home to go to. And that is what adventures are all about. And that's what I discovered in my life is an adventure. And it's interesting because, from realizing that I didn't know what home was or where it was, it helped me to be able to think about that subject more and create what I want to experience and what that sustainably looks like and how to make that and create that in my life. So we can take any others that are interested in sharing.
Okay, so I had a whole bunch of things come up with this. As I was reading through these quotes, I feel like in the past I could relate to a lot of these. And certain when you were talking about your husband, I remember having that same feeling about him. And I had ideas when I had children, and my oldest is 14 now, that I was going to create a home with me, and we were going to move around, and this is where it was going to be. But then I had this feeling once I had her, and my second one very shortly after, that, well, if their home is clearly, and maybe my interpretation was that at this stage, their home is us. They're like an appendix. They're an appendage that we have hanging on us, and I then began to rear my children in a way that I want them to be protected if something happened to me. And so therefore, if I'm home for them, then, and something happened to me and I disappeared, then their home is gone. So then I started to create in my head, okay, well, I need to have a place for them that I want them to be able to go to where they would feel safe. What are the pieces of home that I treasure in myself? And so creating a safe place. And then I guess then our journey became more attached to this place at the moment. But I guess as I'm sitting and I'm hearing everybody, one of the things that I didn't feel like I had guidance in from my parents was at the transformation, I guess, when there must be some point where we decide that home isn't, or we need to help learning that home, although our parents created that safe place for us, at one point it's going to need to shift and become a part of us, and I'd like to be a part of that process. I guess that's what I'm discovering right now. I want to be a part of that process with my children.
Wow, that's a really cool place to be. Yeah. Well, we're going to move on really quick, and just continue thinking about these things, because what we're going to do next is Yeah, just on your handout there, it should have that section where you imagine home for yourself. And what does home mean to you? What does home currently feel like? What would you like it to feel like? What do you want to create more of? And what do you want to transform or let go of? What kind of energy do you want to be a part of your experience of home or not? How do you currently create home in your life? What are all the important aspects of home to you? And just using those questions and other questions that you come up with to become really clear on what you want to create as your experience of home. And I leave that to you to do, on your own time, because it is a very thoughtful activity. And we'll move on to creating home within yourself, the first point that I wanted to discuss. What I have personally found really helpful with this myself are these, first of all, these questions. How do you feel in your relationship with yourself? Do you feel connected to your inner home? How do you bring the feeling of home into your relationship with yourself? And then one thing that's helped me so much is this first thing, mindfulness, which is focusing your awareness on the present moment, re-engaging with life and the sensations of being alive right now. And I have a mindfulness practice there that you can look up and do online as well that just is a really good one that I like. And emotional awareness. There's a whole bunch of questions here about observing your emotions. The practice of being in a connected, loving relationship with your emotions is basically my definition of emotional awareness. Because how we engage with our emotions is what shapes the overarching feeling signature of our life. And so those questions there under observing emotions will really help you get a more clear picture of your emotional experience in life and what you can do to enhance that for yourself and gain more clarity. But right now, I'd actually like Brandon to come up and help me with something. Because he's really good at this.
I haven't actually rehearsed anything, so I don't know what to do.
He's done it before.
I have? Okay,
yes,
good.
You've done it before. I just would like you to do this inner calm activity with them. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what we're trying to do when we're trying to gain emotional awareness is really be able to access our inner calm better. That's kind of what it boils down to, I think, in our equilibrium. So he's just going to take us through this exercise really quick. It's also on your handout, so you can practice it at home as well. And it will just take a couple minutes to do that.
Is it the same on my handout as yours? Okay. I hope I gave you the right one. Okay. So, are you all cool with doing a little relaxation exercise here to kind of tune in and connect to our inner home a little bit more? Okay, cool. So, yeah, everyone let's sit up straight. Put your papers down on the floor if you want, or on your lap is okay. But on your lap is probably a good idea. And just, relax your body here. Straight. Close your eyes. And just start taking a few deep breaths. And start to feel what's present in your body. So if you can release some of the tension that you're feeling. If you feel any sensation, any tightness in your shoulders, just kind of relax those, or any part of your body. And remember, as you seek to have deep breaths, it's not done by inhaling more air, but by exhaling completely. So if you can give yourself a full exhale, that will free up the space for you to take in more air and a very nice deep breath. And if you want to try the practice of making your exhalation twice as long as your inhalation, see what that does to your your state of relaxation. Let's take a few more breaths. Alright, so I'd like you to visualize yourself kind of dropping deeper and deeper into yourself, into the core of who you are, into a place of total peace, total safety. Drop into your inner home. Now, one way to visualize this is by picturing very still water, just like the calm surface of a lake or a pool of water or whatever you want to visualize. Just that stillness, like no ripple, no disturbance. See if you can tap into that sense of stillness within. Just give a little bit of attention to how you're feeling right here. What's your overall sense of your emotions, your sensations in your body? What's going on inside of you? And with that awareness, I just want you to remember that you reach this place by yourself, and you can come back here anytime. Anytime you want to drop into a more still place. You can give yourself this gift. And the more that you do this, the more you focus on bringing yourself to this place of inner stillness, the more the feeling will grow, the easier it will become. And the greater you'll be able to carry the stillness with you throughout the rest of your life. So I'd like everyone to just take 3 more deep breaths, exhaling completely, inhaling fully, and exhaling twice as long as you're inhaling. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. Come back to it.
Okay, how did that feel? It felt really good to me. That I'm the one presenting, and I get a whole bunch of nervous energy building up in this situation. So that's another reason I like Brandon to do it. It gives me a chance to just, calm down, center myself again. And the next thing I want to talk about in finding home within ourselves is a tool that I use very effectively for myself, self-compassion. It's treating yourself with kindness, care, and compassion. Compassion in general is about taking action to help alleviate suffering. It's a frame of mind centered in loving kindness, concern, generosity, and respect for yourself and others. It's also about tuning into love and joy. And self-compassion then is paying attention to the little things that can make a big difference in your relationship to yourself, which is exactly where creating home within yourself all begins. And a mentor of mine, Jan Lundy, she's an interspiritual director and author, gives an idea for practicing self-compassion. She says, take a moment to create a list of all those things that you would love to enjoy or experience in your day-to-day life. Things that bring you personal ease, joy, or inner calm. Keep that list close. Check in with yourself to see if you are actually doing the things on your self-care list. So I would just encourage all of us to do that for ourselves and really take it seriously and always add to your list when you find something that's helping, because sometimes we're not conscious of what's actually helping us in that area and what we could be doing more of. So I would just encourage you to start a list, and then I'm always adding to mine, the ones that I made for myself. And then, as Lainey talked about, courage. Facing our fears is so incredibly important. Why would we ever want to do this, right? It's scary, right? It doesn't feel good. We have this fear that it's not going to feel good. How many of us here have faced our fears on purpose to get to the other side? Can I just see a show of hands? Yeah. All of us, really. So how does that feel afterwards? How do you feel afterwards once you face your fear? Stretched. Yeah, stretched, kind of expanded. Anybody else have a feeling? Empowered. Yeah. Confident comes to my mind. Joyful. And, as I wrote down on the sheet, many of my memories of facing fears actually that come to my mind first are the fears that I faced as a child. Because we face so many of our fears as a child, whether it's learning to ride a bike, learning to swim, those milestones. But it doesn't have to stop just because we become adults. We kind of tend to feel like, oh, well, I'm too old to be, facing this fear, or I'm already supposed to be good at that, and I'm not, so I'm just going to avoid that area, or something. But that's what kept us growing as children, is facing our fears, and that's what will continue to help us keep growing as adults, because the learning process, as we know from being world schoolers, it never ends. And I love this quote from Tara Brach. She says, "The places you're stuck are the places you can bloom in the most profound way." And I think fear is where we get stuck so often, and those places are where we can bloom. And so I have some questions there that I think are really helpful, and some of these questions come from Judith Orloff's book, Emotional Freedom, which is a really amazing book if you haven't read it. And I haven't quite finished reading it all the way through myself, but what I have read I love. First of all, do you have any fears you'd like to find your way to the other side of? Where does your fear originate? What people or situations set off a fear? What change can you make to be freer? And how could you practice facing your fear little by little to experience the freedom and joy that come as a result? Those are really good questions. That helps us just become more conscious of our fears and what they are and where they come from and all of those things. And once we understand them better, it's easier for us to get to the other side of them. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about is creating home within your relationships. How do you want to feel in your relationships with others? And how do you want them to feel in their relationship with you? What are the communication and relational practices you use to create those feelings of home in your relationship? And what do you do also, I might add, that may be detracting from what you want to experience in your relationships and those feelings? And really what I found has been a very helpful tool for me is compassionate communication. which is communicating in a way that increases awareness, trust, and understanding as we seek to validate the experiences, emotions, and needs of each individual to ensure that everyone is cared for. Could I have somebody read that quote by Michael Lerner that's on your handout? Would anybody like to read that for me?
Sure.
Go ahead, yes.
Most are doing the best they can. Most are doing the best they can, given what information they've received and what problems they're facing.
Thank you. Who believes that to be true? Yeah. Awesome. It's good to have that reminder because sometimes it's not how we feel in the moment when we're having a conflict with somebody, right? Who would like to read the next quote on your paper? Any volunteers? Emily? Did you say first?
Remember, no one likes to be judged or blamed, even if they can see how a choice they made has contributed to others' pain or suffering. We want understanding and to be seen for our intentions and our humanity.
Thank you. Yeah. I know that's true about myself. I know even if I know I've done something wrong, I want to be seen for these other things that I'm also struggling with, right? Like, we all want to be seen holistically, not just as you did something wrong and, kind of at attack mode, so, right. Okay. So, yeah, to sum up there, when we respond to conflicts and differences in an empowered way, through love and compassion for self and others, we get the deeply connected and rewarding types of relationships we're all longing for. And I just want to do an activity here, the compassionate listening activity, because this is something I'm always trying to get better at, and I notice when I practice it, it makes such a huge difference in feeling at home in my relationships with others. And so one of the best ways to enhance the quality of our relationships, connections, is to practice being fully present in the way we listen to others. And as David Oxford said here in this quote, being listened to is so close to being loved that most people cannot tell the difference. And I think that's true. I feel that way. When I'm being fully listened to, I feel loved. And when I'm actually listening to myself fully, I feel loved for myself as well. So this is Jan Lundy's practice. She says, consider this. Make eye contact. Using soft eyes, look at this person through lenses of love. Listen with your heart, not your rational mind. Don't speak or jump in to offer your opinion or advice. Refrain from expressing how you experienced something similar. Let the spotlight remain on your companion. Just be there, being you, a kind and generous person who has the ability to truly listen. So I'd like us to practice that now with a partner. And preferably, doesn't have to be someone you don't know, but that would be nice as well. To just get in groups of 2, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes for each person. So we'll just start with one person for 2 minutes, and maybe talk about how world schooling looks in your family right now, how that's going for you. And the other person's job for 2 minutes is just to listen, like I just read here. Making eye contact, soft eyes, she says, because we don't want to be like scaring them, but like, a soft presence, I do that sometimes. I get really intense, and I'm just like, whoa. So yeah. And so I will set the timer for 2 minutes, and I'll let you know when it's time to switch, and then
I feel ignored. Yeah, and I found when I was listening, I was tempted to give my opinion and say, "Oh yeah, that's great," but I was just nodding, so it felt kind of awkward for me. But yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of us might feel unseen to a degree and ignored. how many of you felt like you actually saw the person you were listening to with full presence more than you would have otherwise? Yeah. For how many of you did that feel really amazing to be able to see somebody a little bit more clearly? Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about here. That's why I want to practice it more, because of these kinds of experiences and what it helps me to learn about how to really go deeper in my relationships with other people and understand them more and myself more at the same time. So, all right, so we really got to keep plugging along here because we only have a short time. I'm used to doing like 4-hour workshops, and I still don't have enough time. So. Okay, so we're going to move right along to, I would love to just talk about this subject all day on each category. Creating home in your connection to community and culture. It's difficult to feel fulfilled in our travel experiences if we don't have this aspect of home taken care of. If we only ever feel like outsiders looking in, or outsiders not fitting in, our experiences are in need of some serious enhancement. Finding people who are into the same things we are and joining up in pre-existing groups and activities, or even creating our own, if need be, are good ideas. Being proactive and making a solid effort in this area is essential. Simply getting out there, talking to people, asking questions, and being a friend will provide you opportunities to network, collaborate, and share. And then just be sure to keep up with your new friends and stay in contact and build your own tribe around the world, in our case, as world schoolers, and we have those personal connections around the world. So specific questions. What are your interests? How could you tap into and share those in your travels? What is a new experience you could have that is unique to the community and culture? For me, a big part of creating home in my connection to community and culture has been this world schooling community and the Facebook groups and finding people to connect with that way. And also, it's surprising to me the energy that different places hold and how those energies affect me. And just how I learn, like I mentioned earlier, more about myself through interacting with that energy of a place. That's actually one of my favorite parts of travel. And depending on the energy of a place, I might feel more at home or less at home. But all of the energies teach me more about myself. So specifically, even, you could ask yourself the question, and I didn't write this one into your handout, so you could maybe write this one in as well. What are some ways you could engage with the community and culture in ways that create this feeling of home that you're desiring to create? What are the criteria you are looking for in a community and culture that helps you feel at home? That's one thing Brandon and I have done as we were trying to narrow down our thoughts about where we wanted to create a new home base. What elements have you noticed that make the most positive difference for you? And what have you noticed about the overall energy of a place and community and the effect that it has on you? And just becoming really conscious about that, I think, has been important for us. Because, for example, we loved Costa Rica, and that actually rated on our criteria the highest for us to set up a home base. But when it came to San Miguel, where we recently bought our home, we found the certain categories weighed heavier than others. We love the nature of Costa Rica, and that's why it won. But we really love the community and culture of San Miguel, and that weighed heavier in our estimation. Because if it didn't have the nature, that was okay. We could live with that as long as it had this amazing community and culture. But if it just had the nature without the community and culture, it wasn't enough. So, thinking through things like that. And creating home in your daily living situation, it's the things we're doing every day, and we can't neglect to think about that and the effects of those things. And the question I had there are, what are the things that make the difference for you in this area? And also remembering, I really value travel as an essential part of my happy life equation. And I think we all do to a degree. But the goal is to integrate travel in a harmonious balance with all the other aspects of well-being in life. In other words, travel is not our main focus, of course. Joyful and sustainable living is. So I'm also not talking about merely surviving, which we all know is a feat, right, in and of itself. But I'm talking about actually thriving, thinking big, like actually thriving in our daily living situations. And just becoming clear about the elements that are important to you in your own personal situation, and make sure you're taking them seriously and figuring them into your plans. So there's a lot of things in that category. But you have to decide what those things are for yourself. And the next section is creating a home through conscious travel. So we all know traveling can be a whole lot of fun. That's why we want to do it. But it's also a whole lot of work, as we know. So we have to remember why we're traveling. And I bet we don't all have the same reasons for why we're traveling. Maybe some of them are similar. Maybe we want change or personal growth. Maybe we want a world-class education, as Brandon says, by making the world our classroom. Maybe we want a first-hand experience and understanding, better weather. Or maybe we don't even know why. We're just intuitively called to this, and we're just exploring what we're feeling called to do. And that's how our travel was at the beginning. But the important thing is that you tailor your travel to align with your reasons for doing it and what you want to gain from the experience. Because once you get out there, it can be so easy to get sidetracked, and they call it the shiny object syndrome, right? And you just lose sight of the focus that you're there for in the first place. And so maintaining that can really help you feel more at home and more grounded in your travels. I just remember what you value in life the very most. Readjust, reprioritize, and regroup as needed and desired, just like you would in regular life. Don't let your travel be in control of you. Keep your expectations in check and your appreciation high. Take time out for recovery, perspective, and reevaluation. Change your travel style, slow down, or stop for a while as needed, as necessary. And discover what's working and what isn't. Working as a team and taking turns to make sure everyone in the family is being acknowledged and their needs met, including your own. We went to snow the past couple winters because our children really wanted snow because we've been in tropical, warm places during the winter months. We didn't want to go to snow at all, my husband and I. But we did for our girls because we were turn taking, right? We were trying to accommodate everybody. And, it was difficult in some ways, and the girls, they enjoyed it, and they learned to ski, and it was really fun, and I hadn't skied for 10 years, and I really enjoyed that part of it. But it's really important to just make sure you're taking everyone's needs into account. And these are all things you learn as you go, and they can change from time to time. We feel like we're always constantly in a state of transition. But just keep a pulse on it. Your goals and desires will change right along with you. And be flexible and in the flow with those changes and adjusting your plans as you go. It can sometimes be tempting to want to do too much too fast. We do that all the time. Or alternately, to get stuck in a comfortable yet stagnating rut, which we've also done. So along with that, you don't want to have travel burnout, right? You want to have a healthy and sustainable pace of travel. For our family, we endearingly use the term traveling homebodies to describe ourselves. Because we love to travel and we love how that catalyzes new experiences and interests and creations. But we also like to stay in and do quiet homebody things and create and write and read and we need lots of integration and downtime and space to absorb all the newness we're experiencing. And so the next part I want to talk about that is so important that I'm just learning about now, that I'm so grateful that I have been learning, is this key piece about generating energy. Does anybody here know who Brendan Burchard is? Yes, Ryan. And yes, okay, good. Jen, you know about him. Okay. We just attended his High Performance Academy in San Diego. He's all about generating energy. He says, we don't have energy, we generate it. He says, we take in energy and we transform it, we store it and transmit it. It's all about how do we want to feel and bringing that energy and generating that. Because I don't know about each of you, but I just recently realized my dream and ongoing practice in life is to show up to life in a way that feels amazing. And I can't do that if I'm not generating this energy that I need. So it's called high performance living, is what Brendan calls it. This ongoing feeling of full engagement, joy, and confidence that come from consistently living as your best self. And he says things like, life is too short to be in a constant cycle of burnout. Living fully means feeling good. It's about your spirit. We can choose how we want to experience life. Are we enjoying the process and experiencing the joy? It's all about how we choose to meet our moments. And so he has this activity called the Be Charged activity or Get Charged activity. And, where in the training, he had us list all the things we do to be charged in our own lives, and then we shared our lists together in groups. And I really love this exercise, like paying attention to what charges me and what I can do. So just take a couple minutes and jot down or think about for yourself a few things, maybe 3 at least, that you do to get charged. As many as you can think of, really. Okay. How about instead of doing that, just shout out a couple things. Because we don't have a lot of time. What do you do to be charged? Anybody shout it out? Meditate, coffee. Sleep. Sleep. Personal time, workout. Nature.
Experiencing something new.
Yes, experiencing something new.
Seeing something beautiful.
Dance, singing something beautiful. Singing is one of my main ways. Singing. Singing is one of my ways to get charged. That's why I heard that. Seeing something beautiful. Yeah, awesome. Laughter. Yeah. Awesome. And then, so just, write your own list and make sure that you're doing that. Facing my fears is actually one thing that charges me because you don't realize how much energy you put into resisting those things, right? Yeah. Focusing on appreciation instead of expectations that aren't being met is another thing that charges me. Expanding my joy. Sometimes I don't think that, I just don't feel into my joy as much as I could. That's really energizing for me. Moving. Yeah, I said a lot. So moving, my brain works a lot better. Smiling. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to go over quickly was about culture shock. Because I really didn't think much about this until recently. Ironically, I've been traveling for 8 years and I never really thought much about culture shock. You may not literally be shocked, and I think that's what I thought I was supposed to feel. It's this act of feeling disoriented and processing new ways of life, attitudes, and cultural norms. That's, by definition, what culture shock is. We don't realize sometimes how much of our emotional and physical energy is going into this process. It's a learning experience and leads to broader perspectives, more tolerance, and greater appreciation for your new culture and your home culture. And of course, as Lainey was saying, the key is to work with a culture rather than against it. So how have you experienced culture shock in your own experience? Just think to yourself, if it's not really literally shocking, and sometimes it is, but were you able to learn and grow from it, and if so, how? It's a normal reaction. Even in places you may love, there are always some adjustments to be made, and it's incredible to experience new people, places, and cultures, but it can sometimes feel a bit disorienting and overwhelming. We want to enjoy our experiences, become adaptable. That's actually one of the things I'm most grateful about for travel, is it helps me become more adaptable. And we want to gain growth from our travels, not to feel stuck in a place of constantly needing all the comforts and familiarity of the home we came from in order to be happy. It's about becoming wiser, gaining confidence, and learning to appreciate a new culture as a whole. And I love that Stephanie mentioned the whole bathroom getting wet in the earlier session, because, it can be little things like that, or beans in the pillows instead of feathers, or, the traffic police in Panama that would always stop us for bribes and tell us we were breaking the law and we weren't. And, all these little things add up over time. And, as much as, even just our girls, when they were younger especially, they felt like they stood out. They didn't look like everybody else, and they got all this attention. And, all these things add up, and they become kind of an emotional burden, an energetic drain. And as much as we may prefer things to be different, we find that complaining only makes it worse. But, like when we're expecting, focus based on expectations and perceived lack, obscures much of the good that exists that we could be experiencing instead. But the magic of all this is it catalyzes this process of beginning to see ourselves more clearly in comparison to all the other ways of being in the world. And then, like we talked about in earlier sessions, we may even choose to adopt certain of these foreign practices into our own lives. Or in light of new discoveries, we may choose to discard some of our own long-held beliefs, which is what happened to my family. We're able to get a clearer view of the choices we have and which choices we want to keep or discard or adopt. As you might imagine, this all looks and feels a bit messy in real life. It's not just this, festivals and fancy food and, this travel lifestyle, this dream or whatever. It's that too. But it's also done right, the sweat and tears leading to deep change and growth. And we've definitely experienced both, and I think it helps that you have the really, really difficult along with the really, really amazing, because it helps balance out those experiences. Let's see. So, because what happens is when we're at home in our familiar bubble of reality, our own limiting beliefs blend just like camouflage, right, into the common background of our community and our lives. And a big part of the positive changes we've made in our family have come in the form of how we're raising our children. So, you're just gaining confidence to know how to navigate the world and understand better how it works. You're following your dreams and making the most of your life, and just remember this amazing existence you're living. So that's what I have, but I'd like to just remind you to just take a look at your notes. Remember to implement the things that you're learning and do the exercises, the ones we didn't go over, of course, on your own. And I have my information there if you're interested in coaching. So what I just want to say, closing, is ultimately everything we experience helps us experience more of who we are. And who we are is home. The more we're able to see ourselves in everything and everything in us, the more at home we feel, whatever circumstances we find ourselves in and wherever we happen to be in the world. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, for your contributions and for your efforts in this community, and to live in the way that speaks to your heart. And thank you so much for your examples. So.